Hey everybody, Jason Cooper here from Kickstarted with another episode of Funded Friday, and I am very excited to be joined by three people today. The team behind the Belle-V Ice Cream Scoop, which is currently live on Kickstarter. The project went live on the 29th, and as of today, which is October 31st, 2 days later, it has over 422 backers and has raised $19,993 against their modest $5,000 goal, and they have 37 days left to go. Welcome, guys. Why don't we just go quickly and introduce yourselves, starting with you, Carl. You want to just tell us your role on the team and give us a little background?
Sure. I'm Karl Ulrich. I'm a professor at the Wharton School, and I teach product design and development. And the original genesis of the Scoop project was that I used it as an example in one of my courses. So that's my original engagement.
Okay. Gerard, you there?
Yes, Gerard Furbershaw. I'm one of the founders of Lunar Design, and my role was just to organize all of the resources on our side, some design, some engineering, and some web design, and just make sure that everything came together.
Cool. And if you can't tell, Gerard is having some video issues, so you'll only be hearing his voice, I think, for most of this video. And then Alan.
So my name is Alan Cook, and I'm the CEO of Belle-V. I've arranged the production in Asia with a portion of my team that used to run an automatic pet products company, which I developed in part with Karl and with the folks at Lunar in California.
Cool. So I was really interested in this project because I think it's just unique and it's emblematic of the type of creativity you can kind of see on crowdfunding sites today. The idea that you could crowdfund an ice cream scoop is pretty interesting. And then obviously, you guys have a unique team with some educational and institutional backgrounds that would make you think usually that you'd go to more traditional routes. And I'm sure you guys have done other projects that haven't used crowdfunding before. So, Karl, maybe since the idea was yours to begin with, you want to maybe share the genesis of not only the product, but why you ultimately decided to bring it to Kickstarter?
Sure. So in brief, I taught a course on the Coursera platform, which is one of these massively open online courses, about a year ago. And the course is called Design, Creation of Artifacts in Society. And I had over 60,000 students enrolled in that course. So it was a really incredible experience for me. But I was making videos about design and teaching the principles of design, and I needed an example. And so I used the example of an ice cream scoop, a category I've been really interested in my whole life. And in about the second week of the course, my wife said to me, Karl, you know, you've set yourself up to design a better ice cream scoop. By the time you're done with this course, you better have a better ice cream scoop. And so I ended up at the end of the course with a decent prototype of a new product concept for an ice cream scoop. And I showed it to my friends at Lunar and to Alan, and they said, hey, I think we can make something of this. So that was the genesis of the idea.
Very cool. And what persuaded you to use crowdfunding and actually, I mean, obviously you created a better ice cream scoop, which is great. And before we get into the creation of the actual scoop, which I want to ask you about, but why did you decide that Kickstarter and crowdfunding in general was the right path to bring it to market?
Well, I'm going to be really straight with you, Jason, which is we didn't really need $5,000. I mean, if you look at this team, we have resources. We're very lucky to have been successful professionally and to have done a number of entrepreneurial programs together. So we really were seeking customer engagement in the earliest stages of the project. And our feeling was if we got early feedback from this group of enthusiastic customers that was positive, that would really give us some confidence that we could go forward with this project. So in some ways, we used the Kickstarter campaign more as a way to validate that we had something good, and also to get an early group of very enthusiastic customers engaged in the project. Now, of course, it's nice to have the funding, no question about it, but that wasn't our primary motivation.
I think it's interesting. I see a lot more of that these days, where people are using crowdfunding as a promotional and marketing tool much more than anything else, and the money is really just secondary and covers the cost of making whatever the object is versus starting the business or the jump starting the project. So knowing that you're using it as a marketing tool, I don't know who's the best to answer this question, but what's the goal for the company in general? Where does the Kickstarter take you? Where does this group of people and enthusiasts over the Ice Cream Scoop take you once the campaign is over?
Well, I think if you look at some of our former products and businesses that we've been part of, we've had experience selling direct to consumers on the internet and a wide variety of retailers, both specialty retailers, national big box, small independents. And as our businesses have evolved, the direct-to-consumer channel has become a much more important component of our business and a much more important part of our strategy. So as we look to the Belle-V company on a go-forward basis, we're most interested in developing a very strong direct-to-consumer sales channel that lets us establish our product line and broaden our product line and provides us with a jumping-off point to go to retail. So since we're starting direct first, the Kickstarter project is giving us an ability to establish a strong relationship with our initial customers. We plan to survey them to consider a variety of product options and really lean on the Kickstarter community to learn from them as we prioritize our next products.
Interesting. So it's not just a marketing thing. This is a test group almost of really passionate consumers. What types of things are you guys hoping to learn from them?
We have a number of product extension ideas related to things on the ice cream occasion, preparing and serving desserts, other ergonomic challenges or hassles in the kitchen. Over a long enough period of time, we'd like to conquer all of those challenges, but what we're seeking from the Kickstarter community is a sense of prioritization of which vectors specifically to explore next.
Very cool. Well, one of the things that, and I'm interested to get your perspective because you guys are all successful in creating and marketing and pushing out products in the past. One of the things a lot of crowdfunders, particularly in the design and product space, face is that they make something and they think it's cool and they have a prototype and then they get all this money and then they have to deliver it. What were your expectations going in, and what are your plans from, like, clearly, as I would call you experts, and I don't know if that's correct, but you can correct me if I'm wrong there, but what are your plans to deliver this first batch of products so that maybe someone who isn't as experienced as you guys can learn something about the approach you need in order to pre-sell something that isn't fully realized yet?
Well, I think as we went through the commercialization process throughout the year, we've gone through a number of prototypes, not just in the design portion of the project, which Gerard can talk to, but also from the manufacturing portion of the product in terms of seeking out suppliers, working through tooling, going through a whole number of issues that worked at low volume, but we've learned would not be suitable for higher volumes. So as we think about just the complexity of bringing product to market, we asked ourselves at what point do we go public with this idea and to reach out to the crowd, and we said we want to make sure we have done a fair amount of learning and working our way through some of the production challenges so that when we go to Kickstarter, we're in a position to deliver relatively soon after the conclusion of the project. And our goal is to deliver the first batch of product before the holidays. So that's in December, and that's fairly soon, with second batches going out in the first quarter of next year.
Very interesting. Well, I know that not every project can be boxed into a model, but from your experience and your background, would you say that approach of getting as far as you possibly can and being prepared to deliver is the right approach for most product campaigns? Is that a strategy that you think more creators should embark upon?
Yeah, let me jump in on that, Jason. I think that for this kind of project, it makes sense because the resources required to get us pretty close to production are pretty modest. Mostly it was putting in a lot of our time, which we were able to contribute to the project. There isn't a huge amount of capital investment for tooling and molds and that kind of thing. But if you were creating a new 3D printing technology, or the famous Pebble watch, something that has a fair bit of technology in it, you might actually need $1 million to bring it to fruition. And for that kind of project, I think it makes much more sense, or it would be appropriate, to go out to the crowd earlier. And because you really do need the money in order to be able to make it happen. And in our case, it's not like we really needed the money. It was more a natural step in the engagement of our customers. And so we could wait till pretty late in the process.
Got it. Well, just to kind of go deeper on that, because I think that's something that is of huge interest right now in crowdfunding in particular. There's a lot of risk involved, and your product doesn't seem particularly risky. But when people are creating different products and pre-selling, no matter when they're doing in the process, there's always a risk of fulfillment or of something not working out like they planned. The public's reaction to that has been interesting to see. A lot of project creators catch a lot of heat for not delivering on time or not delivering at all. As people experienced in the design and manufacturing of other products in the past, should we, as consumers, get more used to that model? Like, what are some things that we should be looking for in the creators potentially to either minimize that risk, or what are some of the things that we should know going in to maybe accept that risk as part of the purchase agreement that we're going into with, I'm backing this knowing that there's a chance it might not happen. Put yourself in the shoes of the everyday crowdfunding backer, potentially backing a project, like yours, or even more complicated, like a 3D printer or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm conflicted about it because, on the one hand, the very prominent failures to deliver have perhaps reduced the likelihood that people with more speculative ideas will be able to get support on Kickstarter. I really wouldn't want it to be the case that the only people who can get support on Kickstarter are people making kitchen tools, which are relatively low risk kinds of projects. So I'd like there to be still the opportunity to do more risky projects and to support them through Kickstarter. But the challenge is, how can you communicate to your supporters the reality of the risks and the fact that it is a more speculative investment? I think that's the main challenge. And it would be interesting to think about what some mechanisms might be, maybe for categorizing projects, for ways to communicate to the community that this is an A, a B, or a C in terms of risk that you're facing, because it would be a shame if we were to suppress all of the risky projects.
I think that's a great approach. I know that there are actually crowdfunding platforms that are looking at having a better process for sort of categorizing products depending on where they are on the stage. And whether or not Kickstarter is a place for that is another discussion that we don't really have to have here. But maybe just an opportunity for you guys to all jump in, because I think that for me is one of the things I'm more interested in general is, does crowdfunding provide creators like yourselves and the people that you're interacting with, and maybe some of your students, Karl, who want to go and do something new, is this truly the opportunity that I think it probably is, but to unfasten the marketplace and let anyone into it who might potentially have a great idea? Are we on the verge of a creator revolution because of not only the maker class that's kind of coming up, but now that crowdfunding is here to support it, or is this just a bubble that we're experiencing?
No, I think this is a structural innovation. It really does change the possibilities. I mean, to give you a sense, I have a former student who has a design consulting firm called Ripple Design, but he and his employees have always been really interested in triathlon. And so they had some ideas for new triathlon products, and they put their new triathlon gear onto Kickstarter called Redshift Sports. And they raised $60,000, $70,000, and it really enabled them to identify a set of enthusiastic early adopters, to get critical money to make that happen, and to give them the confidence that they could invest their time and have some reasonable chance of success. So I think it is a structural innovation in the way we do product development and entrepreneurship. So I think it's a very positive development.
Cool. Gerard, we haven't heard from you, and we're running low on time, I think. So I just wanted to maybe give you a chance to weigh in as a designer and someone in the earlier phases of creation. What's your sort of viewpoint on the future of crowdfunding and the industry that you're in?
Well, I think it's really a great opportunity for designers, because designers tend to be service providers, and we do a lot of work for other for clients, and crowdfunding enables us to do projects for ourselves. And I teach a class, an industrial design class at San Jose State on design entrepreneurship, and the final project for the students is to do a crowdfunding ready program, a campaign. And last year, out of 20 students, there were 2 or 3 that I think had commercial viability. If they'd had the time to launch them, I think they might have been successful. And so that's really exciting to me, to think that a student can have an idea and potentially fund it and maybe even create a company.
Great. So last question for you guys, that is a little bit off topic maybe, but crowdfunding, from when I talk to designers or creators, a lot of times the hardest part of crowdfunding for them is the marketing, creation of the campaign. And you guys came out and seemed to have done a solid job. You also had a modest goal, so it wasn't a huge hill to climb in terms of raising your money. But I'm curious as to what approach did you take to prepare for the campaign, not from the design and creation of the product, but from just creating and marketing yourselves, turning yourselves into Ron Pompey for a little while, and getting out there.
Let me say like 10 seconds on that, and then pass it over to Gerard and Alan. I guess the first thing I would say is, in some ways, I look at our campaign and say it's not really fair, because these guys are pros. I mean, this is what Lunar Design has been doing this for 30 years. So they know how to create great images. They know how to create great-looking products. They've done a lot of video. So it was a real pleasure and a rare privilege to have that kind of talent brought to bear on the campaign. And I'm not sure everyone has that, so I recognize that.
Alan?
Gerard, what would you say in terms of substance?
Well, I think that we do have all the tools to create compelling products, and then in addition to that, as a service business, we have to know how to promote ourselves, and so we're pretty good on the PR front, and so I think that's going to be a benefit to the campaign.
Cool. Alan, any thoughts on the preparation for the campaign itself?
I think we looked at the promotion of the campaign just as we looked at the quality, the design of the product, or the production capability. And we're strategic about identifying the different things we wanted to do before launch, at launch, and after launch, and had discussions about that before we went live on Kickstarter.
I think that's a great approach for anybody, and when I push this out, I'm going to sort of market it as an opportunity to hear experts in their space who are using crowdfunding just like everybody else, but you clearly have a very professional approach. And for anyone, again, who's interested in backing the project that's live for another 37 days, they're a touch below $20,000, and it sounds like you'll not only get a very cool-looking ice cream scoop, a better ice cream scoop, but you'll get to be a part of a customer group that is very in touch with the designers and creators of the product. I think would be just an interesting experience all its own if you're into design. So thank you guys so much. Best of luck with the rest of the campaign, and hope maybe we can do this again someday with your next product.
All right. Thanks, Jason.
Thanks,
Jason. Thank you very much.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.